How are you doing, man?
I'm fantastic, dude. It's a nice crispy morning out here in Los Angeles. The weather is a little brisk. It's nice. We're getting ready for the big holiday tomorrow. So
Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving.
yes, sir.
We don't have Thanksgiving this side, so
Yeah, because you guys didn't fuck any Native Americans over there.
Ooh, you know what's the real story of Thanksgiving is so romanticized whenever you watch movies. We never get to hear the real story of the actual day. What is Thanksgiving all about?
What is Thanksgiving all about? Well, you're right. The romanticized story is what gets sold, and that is that after a really rough, time, a few months there, the settlers were able to harvest the crops. They were able to eat. They survived. The Indians and them got along. The Indians taught them how to grow corn. The slaves, the Indians, the pilgrims, they all read the Bible and had turkey and got along really, really good. That's the romanticized story, and they're thankful for the harvest, and they're thankful that they survived the conditions in the New World. But I don't know that dinner ever happened the way that they paint it. There's a church actually somewhere in I was just reading an article. Somewhere in the United States, there's a church that had a embroidery piece of art with
Yes.
all those peoples represented, and they recently took it down because almost like the statues that they're taking down, all the monuments that they're taking down these things that paint this picture of harmony. There was no slaughter, there was no massacre, there was no taking of land, raping of people, and and taking and fucking their culture. So yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get too like fuck Thanksgiving. Then Fox News is going to say that I'm starting a war on Thanksgiving, and that's never good. They already got to fight the war on Christmas, homie.
Look, what I find, remember that with us, whenever we watch American movies or any American content really, a sitcom, a movie, there's always gonna be a Christmas special. There in any series or sitcom, and there's always gonna be a Thanksgiving. So in those two, there's always turkey. There's always awkwardness. But what gets to me is the stuffing. Like when I look at how many people sit in the table during Thanksgiving with one turkey, and there's only two drumstick and two wings. And I go, who eats what here? Because I've only seen the breast carved up a little bit and served to people, and the gravy goes on top. And people talk about using the stuffing for the next day to make a sandwich. I'm like, how big is the crevice of this turkey? How much stuffing? Because I think a fistful would just jam in there, and then it will be enough stuffing, right? But when people dish up a table of 8, they still have leftover to make turkey sandwiches tomorrow. I'm like, Martin, please break it down to me as a guy who's never had Thanksgiving and stuffed the turkey.
Let me tell you, you are lucky that you've never had Thanksgiving and stuffed the turkey. My parents immigrated to the United States from Mexico. And so there was no Thanksgiving for us, for them in Mexico until they came here. My mom had never made a turkey in her fucking life. So she stuffed it with ground beef and some vegetables, like she would stuff the chickens in her town in Mexico. And we'd have this weird stuffing. It wasn't real. It wasn't like the stuffing that the American people were eating. We were eating freaking Mexican stuffed chickens with beans and tortillas. There was no turkey sandwiches for me growing up. So I wish I could share the beauty of the holiday, but like you, I very much got cheated. Not cheated. I had a different version of this holiday, bro.
People make. Do you celebrate it at your home now with your family? Do you actually go out of your way to celebrate it?
I don't. I don't like turkey. I think it's a very difficult meat to make good unless you really know what the hell you're doing. It's typically very dry. It's typically very bland. I'm not a fan of the meat. I did one year deep fry a turkey, and I'm so lucky that I didn't blow the house up. But I did deep fry a turkey, and that was delicious. That was delicious. But you know, it's deep fried. I don't care what you, deep fried anything is delicious, obviously.
Every time I hear anything about deep fried turkey, I think of the Allstate ads.
The
You know,
Allstate ad?
Yeah, where they say how many houses get burned down during.
Yeah.
Like I'm never having that.
Yeah, so it's so I've had it that way, but usually, you know, the last few years, I've had, you know, I made a pork roast a few years ago. I'll brine some chickens for this year. I'll do stuff that I like to eat, and you know, one time I wrapped a turkey in bacon. So I've done things that are not traditional with the turkey, but overall I just gave up on the turkey and said, fuck a turkey, man. I'm not trying to cook a turkey. You know, I'm just going to eat whatever the heck I like to eat and call it a day, you know?
You know, I look at a turkey the same way I look at horses as a symbol of oppression. I have no space or love for horses in my life. Whenever there was oppression and invasion, a horse was around. Like there was,
Yes.
like a donkey carried Jesus, but it gets no credit whatsoever. But a horse, every dictator rode a horse.
Every conqueror
rode a horse. You know,
Yes.
every army general rode a horse. I don't know why people are so in love with. I'm like, this guy here. So I think turkeys are the same for me. When I look at a turkey, I'm going, how did this bird survive when everyone was getting slaughtered? You know, where were the chickens and the pigeons? How good was it in that gobbledygook to survive and speak to the pilgrims and make itself like an honorary? Because if you think about it, it was smart of them, because if you have only one per 8 people, it means the rest got away. So it was a cunning bird.
You know, I have a podcast that I do with my son. It's called the Yo 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 Podcast.
Yes.
And 2 episodes ago, we usually do a green screen, and we always put like a random background back there. Sometimes it doesn't even make any sense. It's just like, what the fuck is that they're in front of? And 2 weeks ago, for the episode, since Thanksgiving was coming up, we said, you know, should we put up a turkey? Should we put up a this? I go, nah, you know, I don't know. I don't want to put up no turkey. And then my son said, why don't we put up teepees? Because the Native Americans never get any love. And I was like, but aren't teepees like fucking offense? Like they don't live in teepees anymore, bro. Like you can't fucking put up a teepee because it's going to look like we're trying to make fun of the Native Americans, right? And so we found this background with a bunch of teepees, and we put the fucking background up, and we did the show, and I posted a little clip on my Instagram, and some people left a comment or two, whatever. This one dude leaves a comment, and he puts, "What is this?" And his name is Tyler Flying Eagle. And as soon as I saw Flying Eagle, I'm like, or Fire Eagle, I'm like, oh fuck, I think this is a Native American, you know? Like I fucked around and pissed him off. Now, my first instinct was to put on the goddamn comments, obviously it's cultural appropriation because your people haven't suffered enough. And then I said, you know what? Maybe he won't get the sarcasm. Let me not fuck with the Native Americans. We're already calling them Indians on the goddamn podcast because, well, not that we call them that, but that's what people called them. They called them Indians back in the day, for crying out. So we talked about it on the last episode, and I was like, yo, Hooter, this dude, Fire Eagle, fucking commented. And then we got nothing but love for the Indians. And then my son's like, there you go. They're Native Americans. They're not Indians. And I go, no, I'm just saying that's what they've been called. Bro, Disney had a movie where they had Injun Joe. Injun Joe, you know how freaking disrespectful that shit is? So, you know, the Native Americans have gotten fucked over a million times. I have a lot of very militant Chicano friends. Those are Mexican Americans that get really militant about the Southwest got taken and stolen from Mexico. This is the Mexican land. This is Aztlan. This is that. You know, they're very militant about it, right? And sometimes they call me, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? And this was when they were still in college years ago. And they'd say to me, I'm not celebrating the slaughter of the Indians. This is ridiculous and blah, blah, blah. And that's when you could still call them Indians and you were doing the right thing. You say I'm not celebrating the slaughter of the Indians, you get canceled now because you called them Indians instead of natives. So anyway.
Wait, so I want to understand there's Chicanos, Chicanas? Was it Chicano or
it's Chicanx?
Chicanas, and there's Latinos, right?
Yes.
What is the difference? You've already explained the other one. Who are Latinos, and is it offensive to call someone a Latino?
So for I think at this juncture in time, I don't even think we're using Latino or Latina anymore. It's Latinx because Latino is a male gender. And so not everybody identifies as male, not everybody identifies. So they changed it to Latinx recently.
So
and
you say it like that, Latinx.
That's what, now there's people that are fighting it and saying, fuck that. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you're a man, you're a girl. I don't give a fuck if you want to identify as them. I'm still going to call you a dude. And it's like, you can fight that battle, but you're going to lose it, right? So now it's Latinx. A Chicano, the difference between a Chicano or Chicanx and Latinx is that to be Chicano, and I'm going to say Chicano because that's just what I'm used to saying, is Mexican American. So usually if you are born in the United States and your parents are of Mexican descent, you're a Chicano. And so the Mexicans were called Mexicas back in the day, whereas the Mexica tribe, right? And so now you're a mixture of the two. Usually it's somebody born in the United States to Mexican parents. And that would be a Chicano. A Latino would be anybody from Latin America. Is what typically would be considered a Latino. I think now, in order to be more inclusive, they're lumping in Chicanos with Latinos and saying, shut the fuck up, you're all right here, and I don't give a shit where your parents came from. You're fucking in this box, you're brown, you speak Spanish, you eat tortillas and pupusas, shut the fuck up and keep it moving.
You know what I always find interesting about Mexican culture? First of all, we should stay on the holidays. I love the holiday of Cinco de Mayo. Do you get to celebrate Cinco de Mayo even if you're not in Mexico anymore?
So Mexicans typically don't celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
Really?
No, they don't give a fuck about Cinco de Mayo. So Cinco de Mayo is very much like what happened to Christmas, right? So when there was no Christmas in the United States, there was nobody did Christmas. The settlers came, and what they would do is celebrate the winter solstice, and they would decorate with all these lights, and there was all this pagan type of traditions that were being celebrated, right?
Yes.
The 25th, being the birth of Christ and Christmas, was put in place, but I forget what Roman emperor, I think it might have been Constantine, that turned that particular part of the year and said, fuck that, you monkeys, we're not doing this goddamn pagan shit no more. This is Jesus's birthday. The Christians were actually, the guys that followed Jesus, the real true Christians, were upset at the time, and they were like, this is crazy, that's a pagan holiday, how are you trying to not convert it into this? Now you try to take away Christ from Christmas and the Christians get mad and they're like, hey, that's Jesus' birthday. It's like, it's so crazy because they don't know the history of it, right? So then they realized, I think it was somewhere in Virginia, they realized how much money they were losing, and they said, fuck this, we're taking over this holiday and we're turning it into Christmas. And they turned it into Christmas, and that's how Christmas came to be, and that's why there's so much money, and it's been so commercialized, and it's a fucking money-making machine. Now, you've got Cinco de Mayo, which is the same thing. Cinco de Mayo was a battle in a place called Puebla in Mexico, where a small group of a small army defeated the conquering French troops and sent them back. So it was like the equivalent of a few hundred people fucking up a few thousand people, and it was a very, I mean, it wasn't like a huge battle. It wasn't like people assume that it's Mexican Independence Day. It's not. That's the 16th of September. So it's literally a battle that was Cinco de Mayo, but it's catchy. It is in the summer, when it's hot, versus the 16th of September when it starts getting into fall weather. People love tacos, people love beer, and people fucking Cinco de Mayo it up. And they wear a fucking sombrero and all the silly fucking shit. And then they, they sell a ton of Coronas and a ton of tacos. But if you go to Mexico, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody celebrating Cinco de Mayo. When I still had a 9 to 5, I remember telling my boss, I'm going to have to take Cinco de Mayo off because it's a very special holiday for my people. And then she just looked at me like, and she didn't want to be offensive, so she's like, well, why didn't you request this sooner? And I go, well, I didn't know what day it was going to fall on. And she goes, it's Cinco de Mayo. Like, isn't it always the same day? And I was just like, yeah, but I don't know what day of the week it was going to fall on. Therefore, I hadn't put my freak. She was just like, you know what? Just get out of here. Take the day off. I don't give a shit. I just want a day off. And I thought that I'd sell it as, it's very important for my people in order to, honor their history with Cinco de Mayo. But no, trust me, no Mexican gives a fuck about Cinco de Mayo, brother.
No, they don't care at all?
None. I shouldn't say none. There might be a handful that are out there and they just can't wait. They got their dreamers.
They're going to call Flaming Eagle to complain on and put a comment under there and go, what was that?
I'll tell you what Mexicans love. They celebrate Christmas. They love Christmas. And they also celebrate January 6th is the wise men. It's the day of the three wise men when they showed up to give Jesus gifts.
Wait, so the three wise men were not at Jesus's baby shower. They showed up in Jan.
They showed up after he was born, yeah.
Dang.
They weren't there. They weren't at the baby shower. Love that. No, they showed up late because, they were following the wrong star, first of all. And then, those GPS, you think your GPS glitches today? Let the fog fuck up the stars and see where you end up in the desert, bro.
You missed Jesus' birth by a month.
So they show up on January 6th. And so on January 5th, the evening of January 5th, kids leave their shoe or boot outside the door, and the wise men come and leave them gifts. They don't do Christmas gifts. They do the Reyes Magos, they call it, or the wise men. So a lot of Mexican regions will celebrate that. They love themselves Christmas. They'll always do September 16th because that's Mexican Independence Day. Oh. And then they also do, what other fucking holiday do they celebrate like crazy? The 12th of December, believe it or not, is a huge holiday in Mexican culture because of the Virgen de Guadalupe, the Virgin of Guadalupe.
I know Guadalupe as the statue, right?
Yes. So she's a virgin. So she, this lady's fascinating, by the way.
Tell me about her.
Okay, so
she's the one that stands like this, like with like a robe on, yes. Right? Uh-huh.
So when the conquerors showed up to Mexico, the Spaniards showed up. And, Mexico had a lot of gold. The Aztecs had a lot of gold. And yes. They were like, we need this fucking gold. And we need this land. And you monkeys need Jesus. And we have this Bible. You're going to give us gold.
You need Jesus.
And we're going to take your gold and we're going to give you Jesus, you fucks. All right? And so they fought it. the savages fought it, you know, because they didn't want to get Christianized. They had their own beliefs. They had their own pagan religions that they've been practicing for many, many, many years before the fucking, you know, conquerors showed up. That conquest, you know, you're taking an entire population and you're trying to convert them into a certain faith. Well, it's not going to be that easy. They're going to hold on to their beliefs. As a matter of fact, so most Catholic churches in Mexico were built on the backs of these Indian slaves. They were forced to build these temples in order for them to go in there and pray to this new God that had come to save them. Now, a lot of them, it was easy to convince because they really believed that it was Quetzalcoatl returning. They believed that Cortez had, with the blonde hair and the blue eyes, was this serpent god that had promised to return in their faith. And so that was a lot easier for them to swallow. But a lot of them were resistant and were trying to hold on to their pagan customs and traditions. They were holding up, they had a deity called Tonantzin. Tonantzin, I think is how you would pronounce it in English, but Tonantzin they would go worship her on this hill. There was an Indian guy named Juan Diego, right? Juan Diego's walking through the Tepeyac is the name of this hill. And when he goes through there, this image of this brown, just like the Mexicans, virgin shows up and says, "Hey, where are you going in such a hurry?" "Oh, my grandfather's sick, he's dying." "Relax, even as we speak, your grandfather has been healed, or your father has been healed," whatever. So the dude goes and he's like, "Oh shit, it was a miracle." So he goes and he tells the conquerors that have set up the churches, "Hey guys, I saw this lady and she's the virgin of the mother virgin, and she told me blah," and they go, "Shut the fuck up, get the fuck out of here, we don't believe you." I'm sure they didn't use those words, I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what they were kind of trying to tell this fucking guy, right? So he goes back, and then she tells him, "Go tell those guys to build me a temple here." And there, to this day, the Basilica de Guadalupe did get built there. It's a huge, people go, they do pilgrimages there every fucking year. There's pilgrimages to the Basilica de Guadalupe. Now she says, "Tell them to build me a giant church here." He goes, "Hey, we need to go build a giant church there for this mother lady, Virgin de Guadalupe." And then they're like, "What are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here. We still don't believe you." Goes back, "Hey, did you tell those monkeys to build me a church?" "Yeah, they didn't believe me." "All right. Go over there, you're gonna find some roses. This is a fucking desert, it's a hill, nothing grows. You're gonna find some roses there. Put them in your freaking little satchel here or whatever the hell it is you're carrying, and go show them the proof that I exist." So the fucking Indian goes, right? Beautiful movie, and it's a beautiful story. And the dude shows up, and the priests are like, "What the fuck are you doing here again, man? We told you to get out of here." And he goes, "She sent proof." And when he opened the thing, the roses fell to the ground and the image of the Virgin de Guadalupe appeared. And all the priests and the conquerors believed. Now, here you have an Indian trying to convince them of the religion. Yes. Do you see the problem there? Okay. And so all of a sudden the Indians are the ones preaching to the fucking priests. Okay, now this lady is huge, and I'll probably piss off a lot of Mexicans for shitting on the story, right?
Luckily, there's not many of Mexicans in South Africa, so you're safe.
I love how you think this isn't going to go anywhere but South Africa. We're on the goddamn World Wide Web, you fuck. It's called the World Wide Web, not because it's not the South Africa Wide Web, it's the World Wide Web. And then, but anyway, I digressed. Let me take a sip of coffee, you fuck.
That's what I get for trying to comfort you and lull you into a false sense of security so that you can upset more people.
Keep going, keep shooting on your Mexican. So they then go and build this giant basilica for this woman. and her image is used to conquer what was left of Mexico to be conquered.
Oh, wow.
Because she looks like them. She's brown, just like them. And she appeared to one of their own. And so the story is just like, there's movies that have been made about it. And on the 12th of December, they celebrate her birthday. If you are a male or a female and you were born in Mexico on the 12th of December,
you're special.
Chances are pretty high that your name is Guadalupe.
Really?
Absolutely. Men and women, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of Guadalupes out there. And typically, if you find a male that his name is Guadalupe, chances are he was born on the 12th of December. Now, that place where they built the basilica was the same place where the temple to Tonantzin was, which was a female deity. And so,
the blonde,
you know, it's one of those like, let's replace this with this type of thing. It could also have been just like in Cuba when the African slaves showed up to Cuba. They couldn't keep their religion, which was the old, not Santeria, it's now called Santeria, but the ancient religion before that, they couldn't keep it. And so what they did is they took those images of those gods and transferred them into images of Catholic saints. So you've got different gods, but you've got the Catholic saints standing in from them, and which is why the term Santeria came from, because they use these saints that to pray to. But that's a whole different story. But
I know the religion of Santeria from the song by Sublime. Do you know the song?
Yes.
It's one of my favorite songs. How much of what we see on Coco is real?
Dia de los Muertos. That's the other day that that we celebrate, that Mexico, a lot of parts of Mexico observe, which is Day of the Dead.
Dia de los Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos. So what Coco did, it made that holiday mainstream and commercialized.
Really?
Like, it very much so. It's in true Disney fashion.
Yes.
They were able to take something that was underground, you know. It's a lot of people believe the name is Samhain, right around Halloween, when the veil is supposedly the thinnest between this world
and the dead
and the spirit world.
Yes.
And so the spirits are able to come through. And I think on November 2nd is the culmination of all of this. And that's when supposedly you set up an altar, and in that altar you put the pictures and the images of these ancestors. Santeria does the same thing. They set these altars up, but they work with the dead year round. They don't just do it once a year. And yes. So you put offerings up to the dead. You know, I had never observed the holiday. My family never grew up observing the holiday. We'd heard about it, but we never like knew anything about it. Now, after Coco, it's like Cinco de Mayo. Every motherfucker has a sugar skull, and you know, everybody's got. It's like sugar skulls are the tequila and the tacos of Day of the Dead. You know. And people make altars. People that would typically not put up an altar are doing these altars, and which is fine. I mean, look, I don't see, especially if it's personal to you. So I had never put up an altar before, and it wasn't Coco that inspired me to do it. I've just been trying to explore my spirituality a little bit more as I get older, and I've started putting up pictures of my deceased relatives, my grandmother, my father, different people that were impactful in my life. I put out things for them, and a lot of people will put up a glass of water for them, right? I usually put out a beer because my dad liked fucking beer, you know. I put out beer for him and for my grandma. I put out water. I put cigarettes on there in front of their pictures. As a matter of fact, I went to go visit my grandmother, which I hadn't been to her gravesite in many, many years. I used to take my mom before my mom got sick, and my mom would always take her flowers. Now I have pictures of my grandma, and in every picture, not one picture is this woman holding a goddamn flower. She's either got a beer in her hand or a cigarette in her hand. She would tell me as a kid, mijo, go light this cigarette for me. She wouldn't tell me in English, she'd tell me in Spanish. She'd say, prendeme el cigarro. I'd go to the stove, I'd light the cigarette, I'd take a few hits, I'd give her the goddamn cigarette. When I went to go visit her, I took her cigarettes and a beer. I opened the beer and I lit the cigarette. And I let it, and I put it under the cap of the beer. And I'll tell you, that was the most connected I had felt to her prior to that. And in my head, and then I'm sitting there by myself at the cemetery, and I said, I didn't bring you any flowers. And then I heard her laugh. Now, obviously, this is my mind. It's not like she's right there. I'm not like schizophrenic, having hallucinations. But in my mind, I heard her say, ¿Pa qué chingados quiero flores? Like, the fuck do I want flowers for? And then she would appreciate a cigarette and a fucking beer.
And a beer.
She's been wandering in the afterlife since the 70s. I don't know who else has brought her a goddamn beer or a cigarette. So I feel I was a hero. A lot of people brought her flowers. I'm the only motherfucker that brought her a cigarette. I'm the good, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the good grandson that gave her a little treat.
She was in the afterlife wandering around with a bag full of potpourri. And she was like, I don't fucking want this.
What the hell am I going to do with all this goddamn potpourri? But yeah, I don't, to be honest, I don't know enough about the Day of the Dead to know how much Disney bastardized it.
Yeah.
I think that they did do their due diligence and they tried their best to represent it in a good light. And I think they did a decent job of that. There's a lot of people that, you're always going to have people that are upset and they're like, that's, cultural appropriation. They are, taking advantage of this or doing this or doing that. I get it, man, but they've been doing that forever. I mean, look at Pocahontas, John Smith didn't rape Pocahontas. It was love, it just happened to be that way, You've got Aladdin where you've got these Arabs fucking at the market trying to just sell you everything and rip you off, in that open air market. There's a lot of things that are problematic with what Disney puts out there, but it's, to this day, they have a ride at Disneyland where you walk in and it's called the Enchanted Tiki Rooms, and they have all these birds, right? And the bird, and it's all voiceover on these birds. But there's this one bird who's a parrot, and he's a Mexican parrot. And he says, "Hello, mis amigos. I just woke up from my siesta. Welcome to the Enchanted Tiki Room." And there's no way in fuck that's a real Mexican using that voice. First of all, okay? And it still exists in 2020. So I'm not going to go fight the cocoa battle until we get rid of the fucking bird. Hello, my friends. Welcome. I just got done from my siesta because, we sleep all the time. We take naps because we're lazy. Get the fuck out of here, bro.
God.
That's
in
a real
2020.
thing. In 2020, it's still there, sir. Yes.
When
Go on YouTube and find the Enchanted Tiki Room with the goddamn birds singing, and then they got the French one. Oh, oui, oui, mademoiselle, you're so beautiful. Pepe Le Pew, who was horny, trying to fuck everybody because that's what French dudes do.
I'm gonna go online, find the link, and I'm gonna send it to Flaming Eagle. He'll sort them out. He'll be like.
His name is, what the hell is his name? Someone Fire Eagle. It's Fire Eagle something.
Flaming Eagle is much more brandable.
Living Eagle's way better, bro. Yeah, absolutely. And you know,
Because
Native Americans, there's a lot of eagles in their culture. There's as many eagles and Native Americans as there are Juans in the Mexican community. Eagles are the equivalent of Juan and Maria. So toxic, bro. You invited me on here, and after this, you're gonna get canceled, fucker.
do you miss being on the road? Because you are on the road a lot. You guys, you and your friend over there, you're on the road a lot. Do you miss it?
I do miss being on the road, dude. I miss it drastically. I miss traveling. I actually just miss going places, you know. I was talking to somebody the other day commenting how, you know, Gabriel is now, Fluffy is now 40 something. He's been on the road since he was 20. So that's half of his life. Now, and you got to figure more than half, because for the first few, like the first 5 years, you're not really conscious of what the fuck you're doing. So for over half of your conscientious life, you've been on the road, and that becomes a part of your life. There's people that say things like, oh my God, I hate living out of a suitcase. I hate traveling. I hate this. I hate that. And then there's other people that just embrace it. They say, I can't be in one place. I got to constantly keep moving. I think that I speak for Gabe, and maybe I'm doing it out of line, but I would say that he's one of the people that says, I love the road. I love being out there. It becomes an extension of your life, you know, and of your family, because once you connect with the fans, especially the way that he connects with his fans, once you connect with the fans like that, it's this relationship that, you know, is no longer there. All of a sudden, it's taken away from you. You know, you're on stage being, you know, adored by thousands, and all of a sudden that's gone. On a selfish level, there's an emptiness there. But also on a personal level, on a professional level, on a artistic level, that emptiness is there on a lot of levels, you know, not just a business one, because clearly it affects everybody's bottom line as well. There's a lot of venues losing, you know, millions, if not billions of dollars, because this thing keeps getting extended. I don't know what the situation is over there, but we just got under curfew, and I think we're going on another lockdown for another month or so here in Los Angeles. I don't know what the situation is in South Africa.
We're on level 1. We're the party stage. We're free, man. And I good luck if they try to put us under any other lockdown. I think this country's gonna go on flames if they try to put us under another.
Did you guys go on a lockdown originally?
A hard lockdown. We went straight to level 5. From
when was that?
From April up until 2 months ago, right, Josh? So we were locked down hard. We were like, so it was April, May, June, July, and August. It started easing up a little bit.
Yeah, but it was like to the extent where we had like the actual army in the streets, and it was like a real lockdown. It was the real deal.
Wow.
And we came out of it, and we did well, you know, compared to a lot of countries. We did extremely well. So now we're on level 1.
So your cases are down, obviously.
They plateaued a little bit, and then they flattened, and then now obviously there's a little bit of a spike because it's summer, and people are going out a lot more. But it's nothing alarming. I think they'll obviously just tell us that there's a spike coming, so we all stay alert. But other than that, we're doing very well. You guys, on the other hand,
we're on level purple, bro. fucking. Motherfuckers are screaming, we're on purple. Oh my God, we're on purple. Purple sounds scary, bro.
But a lot of things made you guys go back and forth. I think first it was the protests. The Black Lives Matter protests, and then obviously the elections and the campaigning and the rallies, and it just got out of hand with you guys. And now that the elections are over, everyone is just suffering the consequence of that, right?
I thought, you know, I was under a false sense of security. I thought that a lot of it had been politicized. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. Obviously, it's a very real thing. But I was under the impression that here in America we had over politicized it, and that once the election was over, we'd probably start seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, and you'd have more of a direction of where things were going. And the exact opposite happened after the election. You know, the restrictions, you know, became more intense. The cases went way higher. I know that there's been a few vaccines that have been announced. I think I know of 2. I heard there's 3. I don't know that. I know that Pfizer and Moderna have their vaccines out. I don't know who the third company is.
We can just call that Flaming Eagle pharmaceuticals.
Oh my God, Flaming Eagle, bro! I'm gonna fucking find his handle, so I'm gonna give him a shout out right now.
Are you sure you want to do that after?
I do, because
Flaming Eagle looks like the kind of guy who takes things to the next level.
I want him to know that it's love. Tyler Fire Eagle. If you're listening to my friend here, Kuza Comedy, Kuza or Koza? What is it?
Koza.
Koza Comedy. I want you to know that it's all love, brother, and that we are angry at what happened to your ancestors and the atrocities that they suffered. So when we bring up Tyler Fire Eagle, it's all in love.
It's all in love.
And you know, and we're giving you props. We're saying that. How cool would it have been if the natives would have invented the fucking vaccine? Well, you know what? If they could do that, then they wouldn't have fucking died from polio and mumps and rubella and all that other shit that fucking killed them. And they'd still be in charge right now. We'd be fishing and fucking all day instead of working 9 to 5. But hey, that's another story, right? Tyler, it's all in love.
You know when I heard from, I think I was watching a documentary when they said companies or businesses that were involved with Hitler in Germany, right, have to pay reparations to Jewish families for being part of the Holocaust and the whole atrocities that Hitler and the Nazis did. And I'm like, if we could do that to the ocean, we would make a shitload of money, because the ocean brought a lot of problems, right?
Yes.
The ocean was like the internet of back in the day. It's just like you open this, because when there was just phones and landlines, you know, when people we never used to just worry about all the things that are out there in the world. If you went to bed, you went to bed with a porn magazine or a book, you know, and the internet just kind of opened the floodgates. Isn't it the same with the ocean? When people had to travel by road, man, they had to think about what they were doing. It's just like the ocean caused problems.
Well, you know, you don't like horses, so we had to get rid of them.
Gone.
And so that's what we said, fuck it, we're going to get a boat. Yeah, no, what started, I think you're absolutely right. It's a great analogy to compare the internet with oceanic travel and connecting the worlds, because everything was there and there, and it stayed, right? And yes. You know, you want to believe in a Lord and Savior, keep it in fucking Spain. Don't bring it to fucking Mexico and shove it down my throat. I'm happy praying to this fucking sun god and the goddamn rain god and the fucking thunder god and whoever the fuck you know. I mean, look, the chopping off of the heads and sacrificing virgins, maybe not so cool, but you know, there's a lot of shit that the fucking conquerors were doing that weren't cool either, right?
Whenever I hear about the chopping off of the heads, I'm like, if a civilization was building the first known highways and they invented the sport of football as we know it now, and they were building these temples and these monuments and these pyramids that could echo sound from a different part of the pyramid just by clapping your hand, it makes it. If there was that kind of architectural genius and engineering, I am definitely sure they were discerning about the heads they were chopping off.
So there's a term called flowery wars. And there's a theory that there was a lot of famine going on back then. And so what these tribal chiefs would do is set up a war with another tribe. They'd conquer a few of their people, chop off their head for the sacrifice, but more importantly, they would eat. There was a lot of cannibalism being practiced. So they were eating in order to survive. So they were setting up these wars, these flowery wars that they were called, in order to get prisoners so that that tribe can then, because you can't eat your own. That's fucking, that wouldn't look good. But if you ate the prisoners that you conquered from that fucking savage tribe down the way, then, you know, it was a little bit more palatable.
You know what? You know, every time I hear stories about tribes and pygmies somewhere who practice cannibalism, I always assume that it's just a Western world story that came. Because here's my thinking about it. You know how much paperwork it is to eat a human being? First of all, the thing looks like you and it can talk. So before you can kill the thing, the mental image it will leave you with when it says, "Don't cut me up," it will just ruin meat for you forever. You know, people can't take a squealing pig. No. And they don't even speak pig. So imagine a human. So there's a lot. there's a lot about cannibalism as a theory that I find very hard, because if you think about it, it's all these Western conquerors that came and found in Guinea tribes that used to sharpen their teeth. They didn't sharpen their teeth so they could eat meat. They sharpened their teeth because it was part of their religion. And also, I found out then why some West African tribes, the women extended their earlobes and also their bottom lip. And I found out it was because when the settlers came, most of them were raped and kidnapped and taken by them, that they wanted to make themselves as less attractive as possible.
Oh, wow.
So they would do these things, self-mutilation on their faces. Then they would like cut themselves up on their face so that they don't get taken. So
Eugene, we all know that all those fucking head shrinkers and African cannibals were out there shrinking heads and eating fucking these Christians that were just trying to give them Jesus. And I don't know why you're defending them, you fucker. Let's be real here and understand that they were eating Christians. They were and shrinking their heads to do voodoo.
Whenever and shouting Beetlejuice 3 times. And whenever I see whenever I see movies of cannibalism, and you know Disney does it very well with its cartoons sometimes, or is it Warner Brothers where he ends up being caught and then they catch him in a wooga and then they put him on a stick and then they put him in a pot and then they boil him, blue 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 blue. And I'm like, if you see the kind of places that these settlers were landing in, and you see the abundance of fruit and beauty around them, what would possess these people to go after another human being to cook? There's not enough meat in a human.
The Gilligan's Island, I don't know if you guys ever saw the reruns over there.
We've heard about it. We've never seen it, no.
Okay, so Gilligan's Island, these guys are stranded in an island over there by in the Pacific, by Hawaii somewhere, right?
Yes.
And there are some episodes where these headhunters show up, and you know they've got the grass skirt and the bones around their neck and the fucking bones around their head, and they got spears, and they're heating up a pot in order to eat these castaways, right? And of course, they always figure out a way to get away. But the fact that was, I think that show, I want to say it was filmed in the 1960s. 1960s, I mean, we have a problem with racism today. The fact that to think that in the 60s, before civil rights in America came to be, there was a show with savages trying to eat white people. You know, it's easy for me to understand the thought process. You know, we're talking about a time when, you know, John Wayne was making movies, and the cowboys were the heroes and the Indians were the bad guy. You know, it was really a really tough time, I think, and it's all documented.
Yes.
In a you know, in the TV shows that we watched, you know, especially, you know, towards the Native Americans who were here, that this is their place, this is their home, this is their, you know, I can't show up to your fucking house and say I found it and fucking, you know, throw a Bible at you and then fucking, you know, take over your fucking place. I can't do that. It just doesn't happen. But back in the day, sure as fuck did, you know.
And you know,
especially if they showed up in horses.
You know, comedy helps us undo some of those things. And I often say to my friends, you know, the reason why I enjoy doing comedy when I feel like doing it, it's because when I feel like I've got something to say, then I'll say it. You know, and comedy is the only genre that allows you to say that. You know, I think with music, you have to think a bit more and make sure that it rhymes. With us, you just have to make sure that you say it from the bottom of your heart and people will find it funny. Because I think people don't laugh mostly at the joke, they laugh at the irony. They laugh at the fact that it was right under their nose all along, or the fact that they've said it to someone before and someone didn't believe it. And I find that the older I get in comedy, years-wise, the more thinking I do while I'm on stage. And it's something that never used to happen to me. I used to just go there and say what I feel like saying, but now I think about what I want to say, and I say it with such indignation, and I feel it couldn't have happened when I was 25. Never.
No. And, you know, when you first start, you're just trying to get a laugh out of people, and you're saying things that are just, you know, I remember some of the shit that I was saying back then. I cringe now thinking about some of that bullshit. But, you know, you're trying to figure out this art. And, you know, unfortunately for comedians today, and I say unfortunately because it hurts more than it helps, with technology being what it is, that there is content being put out there that you would otherwise never put out. Back in the day, a comic would really have a chance to hone his craft and work on it before anybody, like, you'd have to have a budget in order for it to exist anywhere. There was no YouTube, there was no social media. Unless you got on a TV show, your comedy never existed. And now, you know, you've got a joke that's 2 months old and that ends up online sometimes, and you think it's great, and then, you know, 5-6 years down the line, you're like, what the fuck was that? Why did I put that out there? So that learning curve has been shortened significantly.
Absolutely.
Because of technology. And, you know, I don't think that a lot of us realize that, you know, because I came in 99, which was right at the beginning of what this was. You know, I was going up there when people were still going up there with tape recorders and listening to their set and going over on a notebook, where now you videotape, your set gets videotaped. Whether you videotape it or not, there's some asshole
someone's gonna do it
that has, you know, you on their live, you know. So it never, the material never gets a chance to get polished and worked like it once did, unless you're super careful about how you're working it out. But I think those days are truly gone. But yeah.
You know what it almost feels like? You know that Paul Simon song, Boy in a Bubble? Where all the things that he predicted back then are just happening now. You know, it's just like, everything is happening so instantly that it's so weird. When it's happening, it's actually existing somewhere else. You're right. When you're doing a show, someone could be recording you and putting you, not even recording, putting you on their Instagram live for someone to enjoy you somewhere else. And I think about the first time I discovered Netflix compared to now. You know, now our appetite for new and exciting content is so insatiable that we don't subscribe to one streaming service only. When did we get to a point where cable television, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN is not enough anymore? And that's where I find myself. I asked myself the same question this week. I was like, when did I logged onto Netflix and I couldn't find something I wanted to watch. I went to Amazon. I couldn't find something I wanted to watch. I was like, there's nothing wrong with this. There's everything wrong with this.
I couldn't agree with you more. And you know what's interesting? How old are you? If I can ask?
I've just turned 39.
Okay. Now, when I grew up in a time where it was a television with literally 10 channels. That was it. And then there was the channel on the bottom, and then you got the U channels, which is where the Spanish programming was, and maybe some I don't know, Asian programming. And as I got older, the VCR was invented. Like I saw the VCR get invented, you know, and all of a sudden you were able to go to a video store and have this selection of movies to choose from. And that was a mind fuck. It was like, oh, wow, look at all these options. Yet a month in and you're going to the same video shop and there's nothing there for you. You're like, as many as you went from having literally 10 channels to having all these movies, these channels, and then cable as well. And then it was never enough. And then then you had the streaming services come on. Now you've got Hulu, you've got YouTube, you've got Amazon Prime, there's so many different streaming services, and yet people can't find anything
to watch.
It's
you know,
go ahead.
It's so sorry. When I think about it like when movies first started, right, in Paris or in France, it was just a way to express the technology of the time. It was just amazing to see a moving picture. So there's no sound. And then sound came. Then America obviously made movies a big business, obviously because of the war and propaganda. It became a propaganda machine. Then as time went on, I might get the anthology wrong here, but this is how I look at it. And it became a business. And then there was, how do you make a movie so entertaining that someone would want to watch it again without going to the movies? And then obviously with VHS, people could watch movies at home. So now they had to cater for that. And then sequels were obviously good to encourage sales of the same movies. So if you can have part 1, part 2, part 3, Rambo, Back to the Future, whatever it is, if you can have it Rocky, if you can have it in parts, it means now we're selling this thing, it lives outside of the theater itself. So there's more money for people to make. And then we had a phase where people had to make content for younger people because they're the ones who are purchasing. So fantasy started becoming more fantasy caught up with gaming, and gaming influenced fantasy movies and fantasy movies. So you had that phase where the Harry Potters and all these movies that were converted from books that could have easily been video games but turned cheaper were becoming movies. And The Hobbit, you know, there were just these movies that were gripping to people because they were just escapism on a different level, on a fantasy level. It was not realistic. It was not Humphrey Bogart kissing a beautiful woman. It was things that are flying. You know, when they interviewed from the guy who created Star Wars, he said, sorry,
George Lucas.
George Lucas, he said he was inspired by going to China and he saw the temples and the monks. He was like, the Jedis are monks. You know, the ways of the Jedi is just the monks. You know, how the monks speak is how Yoda speaks. So for him, it was obvious when they had this epiphany and he wanted to bring the culture of Buddhism and the way of thinking to the American public and the subconscious. And if you think of when the Lucasfilms became famous, that's when spiritualism became popular in Los Angeles more than anywhere else, where you found most of the spiritual centers and the healers and the books come from that world. So we went from that 80s, 90s to now era, you know, neo-spiritualism. And then now you get movies that are created for short form content, but not only that, they're meant to be consumed in bits. You know, one day I broke down a movie that was made for a streaming service, and I realized that if I pause a third of the way, I can catch up to it again without feeling like I missed out. But you take classic movies, Scent of a Woman, you can't stop midway and catch up and then want to watch it again after 2 days, 3 days, a week. But now, now the shows are made like that. The shows are made like that. The shows are made for you to watch and get interested. And if you want to stop, it's okay to stop. Then the plot continues again in the second half, and in the third half, then the movie's finished. But I also went far deeper and I studied the kind of style that is now out there. And this is thanks to all these classic stand-up comedy shows now being on Netflix, and I compared to new stand-up comedy shows. And I'm like, the difference between classic stand-up that you used to see Eddie Murphy, Raw, Richard Pryor, whenever, to what you're seeing now on Netflix that's shot for streaming services is the Netflix versions of the new stand-up is pantomimes. They're made for people to finish off the lines at home.
Yes.
So it's almost like, and the people at home go, I get it. So it's no longer a thing of, oh shit, because that would never work. You're competing with so much.
You're competing with a lot. Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you're going to make people go, on your special, no one's going to watch it.
I think if you're like somebody like a Dave Chappelle,
yes,
is still able to make you say, oh, fuck, and make you think, I think.
But he can never have competition.
No.
Yes, there can never be anyone else who does the same thing at the same time as he does it.
Jim Jefferies is another one that comes to mind. Jim Jefferies will tackle some really serious social issues and make you think about that shit. I mean, for crying out loud, he took out the National Rifle Association here in the United States, and that was pretty significant, right? But you're right. For the most part, it is mindless, and it's designed to just be this cookie cutter bullshit, you know, that you do say, you know, and the wacky, blah, blah, blah. You said a lot of things, and which is I don't want to let them get lost. You know, when you started this topic, you said that the older movies were a propaganda machine, and they really were. You know, you've got because whatever came out of that television, you believed it to be a fact, and it almost was like, you know, it's called a program, and a program is designed to program you. You know, that's what and that gets lost in the translation a lot of times, you know? And so there was a time, especially in the 1950s, when you had movies like The Ten Commandments, when you had the Leave It to Beaver sitcom, where, you know, you had the stay-at-home mom, the dad that worked, the kids that, you know, played sports, and it was like this quote-unquote American family. And if you didn't, and there was a lot of depression going on, because if you didn't have what that family had, you felt less than. And
the car in the driveway, the mom at home,
yes,
the dad with a great job, the job.
Yes. You go on vacation, for crying out loud. You know, I grew up watching the Brady Bunch, okay? And now the Brady Bunch, they would have a family meeting when there was a problem. They would all go on fucking vacation. They had this housekeeper. They had a dog. And I wanted my family to have that. I didn't want to be crowded in a goddamn roach-infested apartment with my sister sharing a bedroom, you know? I wanted to have what the Brady Bunch was. I wanted that lifestyle. And I think a lot of people would watch these shows, would watch and think that that's reality. And it's very hard to separate that from real life, you know, because a lot of people think they want that shit because it's been programmed into their head that that's what it is to be successful or to be a productive member of society. And nothing could be further from the fucking truth. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. There is a show streaming right now on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum. And it's these autistic kids that are grown up, and they are trying to find love. And so they set them on these dates, right? And their socialization, they have a problem socializing and interacting with people. So their socialization and their idea of what life is comes from movies, comes from TV shows. And they go on these dates, and it's tragic to watch because they're sitting there and they're like, well, I just want, I'm looking for that spark, because, you know, once you have that spark, you know that it's meant to be, and I'm going to find my soulmate. And they're using all these very esoteric terms that aren't real. You're not going to see a fucking spark, but they've been programmed to believe that there's fireworks with that first kiss. And when the one is there, you know it's the one. Fuck off. There is no one. There's a lot of motherfuckers that you have. I guarantee you, go to a bar at 2 a.m. and fucking get loaded. See how many soulmates you find. You find a lot of goddamn soulmates when you're drinking and smoking late at night, talking about the fucking world, you know? And so there is no the one, but it's disgusting and sad to see these poor people looking for these things that don't exist. It's like, I don't know if you saw the Borat movie, one of the older ones, where he goes to buy a car, and he says, they tell me this has a pussy magnet. And then the guy's like, well, yeah, it'll attract women. And he goes, oh, can you show me where is pussy magnet? You know, and it's like he thought it was like, he didn't think it, but the character was asking for that. That's the same thing that we're looking for when we're looking for that spark, or when these poor people on the spectrum are looking for the spark. And it's because of what these movies had taught us of what love is. Love is a bunch of candles and fucking in the bathtub. You're going to get a goddamn cramp. You know, life, nobody's in that kind of shape to fucking carry you through the goddamn door. At least, but people see that and they think this is real. People cover the room with rose petals. Fucking, how much did all those rose petals cost? Take a trip somewhere, you fuck. You know, but we see this and we equate that with how things are supposed to be. It was happening back then, and it's happening today, unfortunately.
And isn't it funny that everything you're saying, I absolutely agree with. Isn't it weird that when you look at people that watch soapies and telenovelas and read romance novels, they're the most miserable people in the world, because they're holding on to this idea that doesn't exist, and everyone that just comes past them is brushed off. Yeah.
Yeah, they're waiting for Prince Charming. They're waiting for the right guy. They're waiting for the perfect one. This whole thing has been mystified so much that your Prince Charming is out there, your other half, your puzzle piece. That other half bullshit, all these motherfuckers that are like, oh, she's my better half. What kind of a piece of shit human are you that's your better half, you asshole? Like, we're all holes, you know? It's disgusting, really. It really is disgusting.
You know, I've coined the term where I call it postponement of reality. And it starts when we're younger and we think things get better as we get older. And that is like, it's a later scenario, not now, just later. You know, I'll be better off I'll be happier on the weekend. I'll be happier once I get this degree. I'll be happier once I get the job, when I get a car. And you know, when you say it, it sounds so altruistic when you say it to people, because it sounds like you're making it up when you don't have this stuff. Or when you're saying it when you have the stuff, it sounds like you've just been disenchanted by having the stuff, you know, and you're not there anymore and you're jaded. But it's the truth. As humans, we're so good at kicking the ball down the road
instead of living in the moment.
And that's what comedy does that for us. And that's what I'm saying. It's comedians the point of this whole podcast was, it doesn't start and it doesn't end. As soon as we sit, you know, and the camera is on your face and you're sitting right there, it will be the same as it would have been had we met in a comedy club, at a pub, at a bus stop, at a park, because we already subscribe to the same religion of we're here now, and that's all that matters. And if a lot of people can just do that, and that's the only way where you can rationally do comedy. If you understand that this moment right here, as real as it is, it's also just it can end just as instantly as it started, because people coming into a room, sitting there and listening to something that they don't know what it is. You know, with a menu, you know what you're getting. With comedy, you don't know. And Find people who come and watch you guys do 10,000, 20,000 people in a stadium or in an auditorium or in an arena. They don't know what you're selling. But when they go to Taco Bell or KFC, they know exactly what they're buying. So you think of this gospel that we're preaching of living in the moment. And when you see people filling up stands, then you say to yourself, at this moment, I'm giving them a taste of my reality.
No, that's beautiful. I love everything that you just said right now, and I think that I think that philosophy applies to everybody, not just comedy. I think there's a lot of people that aren't comedians who are, you know, as comics, it's like, oh, I can't wait till I'm a headliner. I can't wait till I'm touring. I can't wait till I'm this. I can't wait till I'm that. And it's like, hey, there's this old cliche that says enjoy the ride, and it never makes sense until you get to a certain point in your life and you realize, holy fuck, all that time that was the ride, and you're not enjoying that fucking ride, bro. You're missing you're missing your life. The life doesn't happen when you get to there and everything's broken and your dick don't get hard no more. Life is happening right now, when you can still eat what you want, drink what you want, and get a hard on when you see somebody that turns you on. That's your life. And if you're not enjoying it and living it to the fullest, you're cheating yourself, because it's not going to get better tomorrow. You know, it's and these are all cliches, and I know they are, but I think we don't hear them enough. And it's that the past is not real because it's done. And a lot of motherfuckers hold on to shit that happened in the past, and it kills them and it weighs them down, and it's fucking not real. It's over. And the future a lot of times scares people or it excites them, but that's not real either. The only thing that's fucking real is right fucking now. That's it. And until we start embracing that, you're going to be miserable chasing something or running from something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. Wow. I think you've just summed up my whole philosophy about life, and the reason why we do this podcast is just to show that it exists. You know, a lot of times you watch so much negativity, and sometimes you watch negativity wrapped up in such a glamorous package in these shows and movies and video games, and you start thinking to yourself, I must be old to see that this is not fun. Mm-hmm. You know, when you know that something is not real, but it actually is not fun. It's not fun watching this or seeing someone enjoying it. Then you go, you're not here right now. You're just living somewhere else where you think it's going to get better when you get to the end of it. You know, it's like I always say, why do you need romantic scenes in a movie? Why? Because there's someone who needs it. Someone who's out there who's desperate for it. And I think now you've just illuminated my brain, and you made that theory of mine come to life. You summed it up so nicely.
Dude, let me tell you something. These movies where you see the party scene and everybody's doing this fake dance scene and they got a drink, and it's like, who does that? I've never been to a party that looks like this fucking party scene. What are you talking about right now? And it's just, everything's placed where it's supposed to be placed. And it's just like, it's that gratuitous end of the movie where it's like, yay, we saved the fucking bar from getting closed down, and now we're all gonna celebrate and party and woohoo, and God no, and it fell on Cinco de Mayo. What the fuck? The fuck out of here.
And guess who was the barman? The Flaming Eagle himself.
Bravo. Yes, because we're filming in a goddamn casino.
With cannibals as bouncers at the door.
Better act right, or these motherfuckers are going to boil you and eat you, motherfucker.
Better act right before they boil you.
You see that nose? You see that nose with that bone? That says, fuck, that's from the last motherfucker they ate.
Martin, man, you made me have such a good time, man. I can't wait to see you in real life, and we can just sit the whole day and just talk shit, man. You made me think. I had so much fun.
Thank you guys for inviting me, man. I had a great time. I appreciate you guys reaching out. Congratulations to both of you. I think that you know, I don't know what the hell's going on in South Africa, but you motherfuckers seem to have your shit together, and you know, I'll a lot of love, a lot of props, a lot of respect, and you know, I hope that the cases stay down and you guys are able to fucking. I hope you don't get to level purple.